Thank you very much, Molly. Are there any AA announcements for the good of AA? Okay. Yes, Billy.
On August 26th and 27th at Langford Park, there's going to be a really neat step workshop. Anybody's ever heard of Joe and Charlie? His proteges are the ones that's going to be teaching in that workshop. It's from 6 to 9 on Friday night and from 9 to 6 on Saturday night. It costs $30. It'll probably be the best $30 you've spent in a while. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other AA announcements for the good of AA? No? One announcement from here for the group. I know some of you, raise hands, first times here? Great. The ones that I yelled at out front, don't take it personal, because I never know if it's the second or third time you're here. Try to always tell your driver, if you come with a different driver next time, park in the back. That way you can jump right out and smoke in the alley, nobody cares. When you leave the meeting, at the end of the meeting, go right outside, smoke in the alley, nobody cares. We do not smoke in the front of the building ever, even if it's raining. You don't stand under the eave and smoke, because we get complaints from other tenants between the cigarette butts and the smoke smell. Not our policy, it's the landlord's policy. We have no opinion on smoking cigarettes as a whole, but the people we rent from obviously do. So, and we don't want to lose our place for rent. The next meeting in here tomorrow night is the Big Book AA line by line meeting. It's from 7 to 8, where they do the book line by line, answer the questions, define words that people don't know. So it's an excellent meeting if you're new and want to get into the book. Anything else? Next week, Peter M. will be here from Boca. I haven't updated the board yet. And Bill A. from Houston, Texas will be here the following Friday. And the last Friday of the month, on his 31st anniversary, John G. will be speaking here. So it's a good month this month. And then KJ, who was sick tonight, will be here the first Friday in March. So we have a replacement for her tonight. Mike C. Mike Chase E. Okay, Mike Chase is a whole name? Wow. That's a lot to say. All right, that's it. We'll go ahead and open the meeting with a moment of silence, followed by the Trinity prayer for those who care to. Thank you. God,
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
I'm an alcoholic, and my name's Robert Martin.
Hey, Robert.
And I want to welcome everybody to the Gulfstream Group's Friday night Treasure Coast Open Speaker meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is an AA meeting. It is an open meeting. It is a speaker meeting. So we only read this. We don't read anything at our closed meetings, but we read this at the open meeting. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, and does not wish to engage in any controversy. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And our speaker tonight is fully well aware of that. I met him online actually, and then when he moved here, it seems like it's been 2 years now, but it hasn't. But he's one of those guys that jumped right in with both feet, and that always gets my attention in AA, people that jump in with both feet. And with that, I give you my friend Danny D.
I'm Danny DeRose, grateful recovered alcoholic. We're supposed to have a great speaker tonight, but unfortunately she fell ill, so you guys are stuck with me, sorry. We'll have to make do. What it was like, living life on self-will, not too much fun. What happened, my surrender and spiritual awakening as the result of the 12 steps is laid out in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, and what it's like today, living life in the sunlight of the Spirit. But more importantly, like it says in our book, you know, each one of us in our stories talks about how you know, we establish our relationship with God. Because when I got here, that was not going to happen. That was an unacceptable solution, and it was never going to work for me. You know, like when I was in treatment, my 7th treatment center, and you know, I had seen these steps up on the wall, and you know, and I just ignored the ones where I saw God and higher power, and thought like I could just bounce around, and you know, and snake my way through it. So I said, okay, on the 7th time, when I just ran out of options and I found my surrender, I said, all right, I'll go try this out. But I still thought I could get around the God thing. But I got a lot of hope from the people that came in to speak. You know, I heard some stories that had, you know, had a lot of similarities to mine, and you know, I got some hope that just maybe this could work for me. You know, maybe I could feel the way that they looked, that they looked like they felt. And you know, and I got there, and they started telling me, you know, well, if you want what we got, you got to do what we did. I said, all right, yeah, you know, we'll see. And then they started telling me what they did, and all that hope I got went right out the window, because there didn't seem to be any way around this higher power thing, this God thing. And that was absolutely out of the question for me. It was just not going to happen. You know, I was afraid to believe in God. I didn't think it was possible for me to believe in God, especially to have a personal relationship with God. And to be quite honest, I didn't want any part of building a relationship with God. You know, because I was raised, if you want something done, go do it. And you know, that's the way my life was. I was real successful at everything I did. You know, I went in, like you said, I jumped into the program with both feet. Like everything I've ever done, like you know, I'm balls to the wall with it. And well, I've been real successful in everything I've done. I've always excelled at stuff. And I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, because I couldn't stop drinking. You know, I couldn't stop doing other things. It was quite clear to me by the time, before I graduated high school, it was clear to me that, you know, that I was destroying my life with the booze and the drugs. You know? And I didn't necessarily want to stop back then, you know, but I definitely wanted to try to control it, and I just couldn't control it. You know? And when it really mattered, you know, not that I wanted to quit, but when it really mattered to me to not be drinking today, or not to drink on Saturday, you know, because, you know, my stepdaughter at the time was graduating from high school, and like I wanted to be there because I loved that girl and I wanted to support her and I was so proud of her. You know, the last thing I wanted to do was to be getting drunk down the boatyard and not show up for that graduation. It was very important to me. And needless to say, I didn't show up to graduation because I was too busy getting drunk, and I could not leave that booth to walk away and go there. And I couldn't understand why I couldn't. You know, throughout my whole life. You know, from the time I graduated high school, you know, right around 24, my son was born, and you know, that's when I started trying to get sober. You know, there was times where I would try to quit, and I would promise myself, forget about all the promises I promised everybody else. Like I would promise myself and mean it with it, as much as I mean it today. I meant it with every fiber of my being. I am done. I'm done hurting the people that I care about. I'm done destroying my life. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And you know, forever for me was anywhere from a few hours to a few days. The longest I managed to stay sober when I wasn't locked up, since I was 18 years old, was 3 months. You know, and that was out of guilt. You know, because I had just got out of jail for running over a 14-year-old girl in a blackout. And by the grace of God, she was okay. She survived. You know, but out of that guilt, and having to have my son, who's got Down syndrome and can't talk, visit me through that 1-inch thick glass for a year, that guilt and that shame and that fear, I was able to stay sober for 3 months, and that's the longest I was able to stay sober since I was probably 15 years old, if I wasn't locked up. And but it took probably 2 or 3 weeks before my life was absolutely insane, and it was like unbearable. And nothing bad happened, nothing good happened. It was just another night. Got in from a fishing trip. I was a commercial fisherman, and we went out to get some dinner. Everybody ordered beers. I ordered a glass of water because I don't drink anymore. I'd already turned down other things on the boat, and the bartender brought them all the beers. brought me a glass of water. He went through this double swinging doors to go put our dinner order in. And before them doors stopped swinging, I didn't think he was ever going to come back. It seemed like it took forever for him to come back. And the minute he walked back through those doors, I said, give me a Budweiser and a shot of Cuervo right now. And I had probably 3 or 4 beers and about 6 shots before any of them finished their first beer. And that's when I started really experiencing the progressiveness of this disease. And life went downhill real fast. I try not to talk too much about my drunk log because, like, if you're sitting here, whether you've come to your own truth or not, like, you're probably pretty convinced, like, you're probably pretty well versed in how to destroy your life and how to party. So I try not to touch too much on that. But when I do touch on it, I like to touch on it, just to illustrate my powerlessness and how much of a slave I was to this disease. God bless you. I started drinking when I was about 10 years old. And I became a blackout drinker when I was about 10 years old. And I started using drugs when I was about 10 years old. And I was a little mama's boy. I didn't, I guess you could say I came from, it was a divorced household, but I didn't come from an unloving household. My mother was an absolute saint. And I had no idea the person that my father was. So to me, he was my hero. He was my idol. And regardless of how he lived his life, I was unaware of how he lived his life. So it wasn't by watching him. He tried to hide stuff from me, and when I was young, I was naive. I didn't know any better. But I had nothing but love for my mother and nothing but love for my father. I was a little mama's boy. I hated my mother for that. I hated my mother for being the sensitive kid. I hated my mother because I was a kind kid. Because I tried to help other people. I grew up in the city till I was 13, and I'm from Massachusetts, if you couldn't already tell. And I grew up in Quincy Point, and it was like the junior high Salty. And it was back like when Whitey Bulger was running around, and being a tough guy, and a wannabe gangster was the thing to do. And I never felt like I could get along or fit in with anybody like my age. So I hung with the older kids. So I was in 5th grade. I was hanging out with high school kids, and they were ripping and running and committing crimes, and I was petrified to do that. But I wanted acceptance, and it seemed like people respected them and wanted to be around them. And I lived with that delusion for a lot of years. You know what I mean? It took me till I got sober at 40 years old, till I worked these steps. You know what I mean? To realize that I had fear and respect really confused and mixed up for a lot of years, for my whole life. But I wanted people to respect me the way they respected these people. You know what I mean? People got out of their way when they walked down the hall in school. People did what they wanted them to do. They had money, they had girls. I was in 5th grade, they got cars. So I started I followed their lead. And that's how it all began for me. I didn't experience any kind of trauma in my life growing up. My father went to prison when I was in 6th grade, or 5th grade, 6th grade, but I didn't really understand. It didn't really have any effect on me. And I did really well in school, and I found that was the one thing that that let me live the way I wanted to live and get away with it, was if I did good in school, everything else kind of got on the slide. And God gifted me with book smarts and a master's in bullshit. And so, that's why I got my way through school. I never took a book to school. I graduated at the top of my class with a free ride to college, academic scholarship, and got a job at a fishing boat that summer. I was 18 years old. I was making a couple grand a week. The captain was bringing an ounce of coke, a quarter pound of weed, and a section of the fish hole designated for booze every trip. Plus, I was making that couple grand a week. I had arrived. Like Bill said, I had arrived. I thought, who's got it better than me? Nobody. Just ask me. I'll tell you. And so I started thinking about it over the course of the summer, and it started getting closer and closer to going to college. And then my family and people were so proud of me that I was going to college. Like nobody in my family had been to college, and I had this academic scholarship, and they were all talking about it. And I was afraid to let them down, but the closer I got to going to college, I started realizing, like, if I go to college, I'm going to lose this. And like, this is what I wanted my whole life. So since I was 10 years old, this is what I wanted. You know, I wanted to party like this and it to be accepted, and to have people to show me how to party like this. So I called up to college, I don't know, probably like 2 or 3 days or a week or something like that, you know, before it was time to show up. And I said, yeah, you know, you can give that scholarship away, like, because I'm not coming. And the lady on the other end of the phone was like, do you have any idea what you're giving up? And I didn't say it, but I was thinking, like, do you have any idea what I got going on in my life? Like, apparently not. Like, you know, you'd have to be a fool to go to college. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you understand. And you know, but I had already had people telling me I wasn't right in the head by this point. So you know, I knew better than to say this to this woman. So I just said, yeah, I know. You know, I'm not going to be able to take that. You know, and then my justification to my family was, you know, because it was widely known in my family by that point that, you know, I was a heavy partier, and that I had already been getting in some trouble. You know, I had wrecked a few cars before I was old enough to drive, and I was drunk on every one of them. Somehow or another, I didn't get drunk drivings. Got in a lot of trouble, you know, some possession charges and stuff like that. And so, you know, my family knew what I was all about. And so, you know, so when I turned that down, like, you know, my family was crushed, and I was like, yeah, but I don't think you understand. Like, you know, I really wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to college so bad. You know, but, you know, you see the way I party. Like, I couldn't, you know, college is a party atmosphere. Like, I'll just fail out anyway. So why not let somebody have that scholarship? And that's how I justified it to them and to me for a little while. You know, but after doing my inventory, you know, I was able to look back on my life and, you know, see how my life was driven by fear. You know what I mean? You know, hundreds of forms of fear. You know, and I think there's a lot of factors in why I didn't take that scholarship. It was all fear-driven. You know, it was fear of having to go there and try to live a normal life. You know, and then what if I did succeed and get that get that degree? The people are expecting me to go out there and live like a real person. You know, and I wasn't sure I could do that. And then what if I failed? You know what I mean? Then I couldn't live with myself for being a failure. You know, so I didn't take it. You know, and that's by that point, you know what I mean? Alcohol was my master. I was a slave to it. You know what I mean? Like every decision I made from that point on in my life, every decision was based on the booze and other stuff. You know, every job I had, every place I lived, every place I tried to run away to, everybody that I hung out with, it was all based on booze and other things. I couldn't do anything without it, and so I surrounded myself with people that didn't do anything without it. So it seemed normal. And then I'd be around somebody normal and, you know, be standing at the seawall down by the ocean, and I'd be standing there drinking a beer on the side of the road, smoking a joint. We'd be like, dude, what are you doing? It's like, you know, you're in the middle of town. So? I'm not doing it. I'm not driving. You know, yeah, give me a few minutes, but you know what I mean? But, I wasn't driving at that moment. You know, so I had a cops pull up me before, right? Because I was a fisherman, they were really leaning on the fishermen in the town. I had cops pull up to me before, be like, what are you doing? Having a beer. Like, you reek of weed. You got any weed in the truck? Well, you know, there's half a joint in the door, and you know, I figured if I gave up that half a joint in the door and those few roaches in the ashtray, like they wouldn't go looking for the bag, and they never did. They just took my roaches and they split. They told me to get a plastic cup, so I did. You know, so it seemed acceptable, like it seemed like normal behavior to me. You know what I mean? I didn't know the truth from the false anymore. It became the only way of life that I knew. I couldn't imagine living a life any other way. And anybody that did, I felt sorry for them. I felt sorry for people that didn't party the way I did, because they didn't know what they were missing. You know, because that was the closest I ever felt to being okay, was when I had something in my system. And for some years, unfortunately not too many, I did feel okay. I felt better than okay when it was in me. You know, but by the time I was like 18, 20 years old, like, it was the closest I could feel to okay. You know, but like I always felt less than, but I always needed you to think that I felt like I was greater than, and you needed to feel like that I was greater than. If I was with you, like you needed to be quite clear on the fact that you were extremely lucky to be in my presence. And inside, I could not believe that you were standing there talking to me. You know, like if you were here, I had to be up here to feel like I was right here. And so that's how I lived my life. You know, it just absolutely dictated my life. And you know, I gave. It didn't take anything from me. I handed everything over on a silver platter to this disease. Everything that ever mattered, anything to me. If it even hinted to stand in the way of the booze and the drugs, it was gone. Like, I didn't give it a second thought. It was gone. You know, and I started drawing those invisible lines in the sand, things that I wasn't willing to give up for it, until I was faced with the decision. And then there was no thought involved, and it was gone. You know, and it took everything from me. It took a naval nuclear career from me. Well, I sacrificed. I gave a naval nuclear career to it. I gave that scholarship to it. I gave a home to it. I gave a business to it. I gave a couple really good relationships to it. I gave my parents to it. I gave everybody in my family to it. I gave all of my true friends away to it. Gave my license away to it, my freedom away to it, multiple times. Gave all my money to it. But there was one thing. My son was born when I was 24, and that's when I really started trying to get sober. You know, and you know, he was born with Down syndrome, and I used that for the old poor me for a few years and got away with it. And you know, then I was all right with it. But you know, as much as I didn't think I believed in God, like I was angry with God for giving him the Down syndrome. I knew who I was. I knew who I was. And even though I didn't believe in him, I would talk to him. Talking to somebody, wasn't me. And you know, I used to be like, you know, how could you do this to him? Like, how could you punish him for the life that I'm living? How could you punish him for the person that I am? And I used to hate myself for that, because I used to feel like if there was a God, that he gave my son Down syndrome because I was a scumbag. I was a selfish, self-centered piece of crap. And I thought that he was being punished for my sins. And you know, after going through this process and having that psychic change in my life, like, I can look back today and I thank God with every bit of my heart for blessing him with Down syndrome. Because if he could have had any kind of idea the type of life that he was being subjected to through his life, because he was like attached to me at the hip. You know, I actually even stopped drinking in bars for this kid. I just took him everywhere I went drinking. I took him to bad neighborhoods. I took him on drug deals. You know, I did drugs in front of him. And I'll never forget one time when I got out of my third treatment center and swore I was done. I was never doing it again. And you know, 3 hours later, I was smashing a pill up on, drinking a beer and smashing a pill up on my entertainment center. And you know, I thought if I had my back to him, like, he wouldn't know what I was doing. I kept my paraphernalia in the silverware drawer. You know, and so I crushed my pill up. No disrespect to AA, but it is part of my story. And I turned around to go to the drawer and get that, and my son was handing me my half a pen. And you know, that ripped my heart out. But like I said, I went to 7 treatment centers. That was my 3rd one. And I had a hard time looking at myself in the mirror from that day forward. I never wanted to be clean and sober. I never wanted to be a better person and a better father than I did at that moment, from that moment forward. But I was completely powerless and completely enslaved to this disease. And you know, so I kept trying to go back, and I kept trying to go back, and I couldn't understand when I got out. You know what I mean? Why I couldn't get this? Why I couldn't do it? Like, you know, like, I excelled at everything. Why can't I do it? It's like, what the hell is wrong with me? You know? So after looking at the steps on the wall in the treatment, when I was in treatment, I said, well, I know what's wrong with me. I'm powerless. So when people say, like, what is wrong with you? I'll be like, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict, like, I'm powerless. This is what I have to do. It's not an option. You know what I mean? I read the rest of the stuff, but the rest of the stuff really wasn't happening. So, like, I really didn't pay attention to really what it said. But I saw that I was powerless. I didn't even care about the second half after the dash about my life being unmanageable. I saw I was powerless. You know? So I actually used that. I wore that like a badge of honor. You know? That was my excuse from there on out. You know? I'm powerless. I got no choice. This is what I'm supposed to do. You know, it wasn't until I found my surrender. You know, and threw myself on my knees and not even believing in God, and just asked to either like kill me or help me, because I just couldn't be me anymore. I didn't even ask to get me sober. You know, the first night in that last detox. And I just said, please, I can't be me anymore. And that's how I ended up there that last time. You know, because my poor wife, it was a tragic day for her. It was a tragic several months before that for her. And especially when she saw the bank statements. But, you know, I know it was tragic and it was horrifying for her, and you know, but for me, it was just another day of drinking. It was nothing special to me. It wasn't like, you know, if I didn't wake up on a steel bed, it was just another day. You know, and I was sitting in the backyard that day, you know, doing a few things, sucking down some beers, and sitting in the chair, feeling pretty numb, having a beer, and I just dropped my beer and I burst into tears. And like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do. Like, every minute that I was awake, I wanted to be dead. I didn't want to kill myself, but I was wishing I would die. And every morning when I woke up, I was pissed that I was awake. Like, I can't believe I have to do this again. Like, I welcome death. Like I said, you know what I mean? We're at that jumping off point, you know what I mean? To go on to the bitter end, would accept spiritual help. Spiritual help was absolutely not an option for me. You know, going on to the bitter end, like, that was all right, but, you know, can we shift this thing into sixth gear? Like, you know what I mean? Can I get a faster car? Because I wasn't afraid of dying. I welcomed it. You know, I was afraid of living. Because I didn't think there was any way, like, I didn't think it wasn't killing me. It was just destroying me. You know, and every time I was sober, I just wanted to be drunk and high. And every time I was drunk and high, I just wanted to be sober. And I just hated the person I became. You know, and I had my current wife, like, you know, telling me, like, that she could see all this good in me and I was this good person. And God, I never wanted to lay my hands on her more than I did when she would say that. You know, my mother would try to say that to me, and I would get angry and I would tell her off. Like, no, you have no idea. No, I'm not. And I didn't think I had the capacity to be, even though I wanted to be, but I didn't think it was possible. And so I said, like, I got to do this again. And, you know, to back it up just a little bit, that was, you know, when I went to the seventh, like, after, like, my fourth treatment center, it was the direct result of the life that I was living. You know, I got jumped by several roommates, and I looked like the Elephant Man. And I had to go to the emergency room because I was all swelled up like a basketball.